Election day coverage continues, and joining us to dig into some of the bigger races is Mike Yawn, political science professor at Sam Houston State University. Thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, you had your coffee, you've had some time to drink all of this in, and your big takeaway is that there's a lot of ambiguity after last night, right?
Right, and you can see it right here with the very close race, both in the Democratic and the Republican, but especially the Republican side.
Yeah, starting off with this Texas Senate race, these were high-profile candidates, and when we see just how close this is, what was your take on that? I mean, for Cornyn to have, been in for so long, this is, surprising.
That's right. He has sailed to re-election in the past, but Paxton is something of an incumbent himself, having been Attorney General. He has a very motivated base, and that's going to help him in a runoff, which now seems, which is inevitable. And it appears that Hunt will not be endorsing anybody. But I suspect both of the top candidates will be vying for an endorsement from Donald Trump.
Does this tell us something about the Republican Party in Texas when you look at this?
It is a battle for the future of Texas, and you have what would be considered an establishment Republican. And it raises the question of what happens when all the insurgents become the establishment. When they win, who is the establishment then? Okay,
so let's now talk about on the Democratic side, because we want to talk about what happened there. Is there momentum, or is this a long shot? And I'm going to switch over to take a look at that map for us as we take a look at on the Democratic side, Tallarico with 52% of the vote. And then I think that just a few moments ago, Jasmine Crockett did concede. We saw a message on X giving her congratulations. What's your take on this one?
It's a little bit of a surprise. Some of the polls showed Crockett with double-digit lead against Tallarico.
And yeah, I want to show you in this case in what we saw here in Harris County. So let's zoom in, because you saw something interesting happening in Harris County with her.
Well, what's interesting is she won many of the urban areas, and then in Deep East Texas, where there's a large African-American population. But Tallarico really had an impressive statewide victory. It was decisive enough, as you mentioned, that Crockett felt like she needed to do the endorsement, and I'm sure she was encouraged by Democrats who want to see a united front coming this November.
Yep, okay, interesting. Now, let's get to the Texas Attorney General. That seat is open because of Ken Paxton's Senate run, and we just talked about how that went. Now there's a runoff between Chip Roy and Mays Middleton. So let's take a look at that one, and tell me what you're seeing with that specific. I think this is the right one.
I think this is the Democratic side.
Here we go. There we go. I got it.
Yeah, and I think.
What's your takeaway here?
I think what's interesting is, again, how difficult polling is in the primary elections. Roy was projected to be ahead, maybe even win without a runoff. What you see is a flip. Middleton has not a definitive and determinate lead, but a strong lead. It's going to be tough for Roy. Again, we'll see about endorsements here, but MAGA Middleton is what he ran on, and it was an effective marketing campaign.
It seems like it. So we've got more of those ads headed our way?
Oh, yeah.
Of course. Okay, now let's take one last look here at the other big race that we were watching here locally, District 18, especially since it was one of those districts that was redrawn by Texas lawmakers last summer, also headed to a runoff. So what's your take on this?
Well, this is fascinating, and I'm sure some of our Houston viewers are sick of hearing about it, but you're going to have, after 18 months of not having somebody in office, you're going to have 3 elections in 3 months.
Right.
And so there's plenty of opportunity to vote. There's about 1,800 votes that separate these two men. And what's, of course, interesting is if Edwards could have pulled out in time, that 7% would have been split between the two of them. There may not have been a runoff, but I think the wind is at Menifee's back, and it will be tough for Green, but he is fighting valiantly.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for touching on all of these big races. We certainly appreciate it, and I know we're going to be pulling you back in many, many times before May.